What's good people? It's OldYatta and BB again
with Vulnerably Strong. Welcome back to Vulnerably Strong, where we discuss how being vulnerable in all kinds of relationships can help make those relationships stronger. And today's topic is, you want to say?
No, you say.
Today's topic is disagreeing versus arguing. So, this topic came to mind for me just because I feel like I always hear people either say things like, uh, you know, they argue all the time with a partner, or what I guess should be the opposite of that is like, we never argue. And I think that there should be kind of a more realistic.
I hate that. That's
like
always
more
something.
Realistic.
There's nothing to tune me out more. It's like you meet a new couple or a new or maybe someone you know well is bringing their partner and be like, oh, we never argue. I'm like, here we go.
So that's
garbage.
So I would say, however, we don't ever argue. However, we disagree
quite a bit
all the time, multiple times a day, maybe multiple times within a conversation. So I thought it would be a good topic for us to talk about and explore a little bit. And on my mind was more so like the idea that obviously people disagree. Like, I feel like if you're not disagreeing with people, then you're not talking to them, probably. And something that we talked about in a previous episode is being able to come with your full self. So if you're coming with your full self, your full moods, your full ideas, your full perspectives on things, you're going to disagree with people, even the people that you're closest to. But it's all about how you disagree, how you communicate those disagreements, so that being in, the conflict of the disagreement ultimately brings you closer instead of moves you farther apart.
Yeah, it's a sticky wicket though, man, because I think it's a fine line. You know what I'm saying? I got all kind of sports references. I'm going with the cricket this time. But I mean, it's tricky is really what I'm saying, because people can feel disrespected. I'm even speaking for myself. I'm not gonna say people. I can feel disrespected sometimes with how exactly you disagree. Like, I'm really just trying to have an argument. Trying to have a discourse. I'm not trying to have an argument. I mean, I'm not afraid of the conflict of us disagreeing. You know what I mean? Like, if I have a position, you have a different position, I have no problem hashing that out until we get to a point where we're too tired or the points have been made. I may even take the counterpoint that you have just to really get the inner workings of where you're coming from, just for understanding. But I'm not particularly taking it personal. You know what I mean? I may defend my view, I might get animated, but it doesn't mean I'm really upset or anything like that. Like, I want more information. This is how I learn,
Yeah. I think something that's
tricky.
Interesting in our relationship is that we, if I may speak for us both,
you may
had previous relationships where it wasn't really safe to disagree.
It was definitely tricky, right. Again.
And so I think
to disagree.
I think when we came into this relationship, without knowing it, we were both looking for a space where it was okay to have an opinion that differed from the other person, and for that to be a thing that we could do safely. And I think some of the things that we both either talked about in advance or just learned through disagreements that came up was the importance of communicating what kind of triggered us in a disagreement. So like for you, it was if there's a disagreement or if the other person disagrees, to get the feedback on like what that is.
Oh, right? Yeah, that's true.
And
that's
for
true.
Me, I need a minute.
Yeah,
maybe several minutes, maybe
a minute
several hours.
Conservative.
I would say maximum 48 hours. Was that?
I feel like moment.
Okay, so I need a moment sometimes, but that's because I want to make sure that with, this person that I love so much, that I'm not in a moment where I disagree, that I'm not saying something that's fully coming from a place of like emotion and upset, I want to make sure that I'm responding honestly in that space of being, disagreeing and being in conflict, but still with care, right? And so for me, I need that kind of time and space to really think about, like, what's the thing that sort of is causing these feelings of like conflict or disagreement, and how can I communicate that effectively and carefully to you. But what I learned is that you need feedback, so I can't just like go silent for 48 hours, right? I have to be like, I am in a state of disagreement. I am upset, and I need a moment, and I will come back, so that you're not there thinking that I'm
Well, I think that's a good open, but it's like the older I get, I mean, it's weird. It's like I'm entrenched in my views. I can recognize when I'm being a jerk, I guess, as part of it as well. And when you can recognize how much you suck a little bit, you can meter your behavior and you can meter your expectations a little bit. And I say all this to say that it's not like I'm trying to. She knows this already. I'm not trying to demonize anybody, like anybody that I was with before or any relationship that I had, because I think where I learned this was not, and learned how I am anyway, was not really in a romantic setting. If I'm 100% honest, I'm curious about this type of topic all the time. So I'll be on the socials and there's a bull. If I can remember the name of the bull, I'll put it somewhere. But and he says, he talks a lot about childhood wounds. You know what I mean? Like she listens to that podcast too. And basically it's like you learn these patterns of being when you're younger, right? And, it's in our other episode is we're talking about how you're all focused on yourself to a certain extent. And that's what happens. Like you're the champion. Somebody told me you're the champion in your own story. You're the hero of your own story, right? And so it's a very narrow way of looking at things, right? You're not looking at, I'm in the tech game a little bit, and there's a system of things that all work together, right? But you're very singularly focused on you, and your childhood wounds play, or maybe it's not a wound, but how you came up plays a role into how you interact and how you take things. And so I say all this to say, it's not a tangent, but I say all this to say that I need the feedback because the silence was dangerous when I was little. Mm-hmm. If I'm not getting constant feedback, then I'm feeling like I'm in danger. Do you know what I mean? Like the same bull, TikTok bull, was talking about how like, it's actually a childhood wound to be in a constant state of vigilance, right? Mm-hmm. If you think about you on a block, it's a dangerous block. You think there's a lot of people on the stoop, but they're not relaxing. They're like looking crazy to see like what's going on. They need the tea immediately when it's coming because it may not be safe. Mm-hmm. When the cops pull up, it may not be safe, right? The same way if you're in a conversation with your grandma or your auntie and, they talking a little greasy and you feel some kind of way. When you're a youngster, you don't know why you feel that way. But what you do know is that it don't feel safe.
And similarly, like to my thing about needing time, right? My thing was if I said the wrong thing, if I came back with the, being angry or just like, speaking from emotion and I said the wrong thing in my household, right? Then that was not safe, right? And there was a way that then I was going to be, there was going to be a fallout from that. So for me, it's like, let me, and also sometimes I wasn't allowed to say anything, right? So there was number one, either I was silenced or I could speak, but I had to be very careful about how I speak. And so I think those things that, this is like a little psych 101, maybe, I don't know, but those things that, we had separately in our childhood, and this is true for most people, right? The things that you learned, the patterns that you learned in childhood or the relationships that you experienced or saw in childhood make their way into your adult relationships, right? If you haven't learned to recognize them or heal them or whatever. And so some of those things, at least for me, right, did play out in some of my adult relationships. as well. And I think, again, not to demonize anyone from a past relationship, but to me, that's all. I heard someone say one time, like, it's like your curriculum for life, right? And so, like, all those relationships, right, are part of like the curriculum for your life. And so I think, to me, I just look at them all as like learning experiences that I had so that I could be able to get to this point in this relationship where now I've learned a bunch of things that I can use effectively, right, to communicate with you.
Yeah, I like that. I like the close. But I also bring that up, like, because it's really, she knows this. Like, I have a hard time. This is maybe in a black context. Like, I'm traumatized coming up. She might be traumatized coming up as well. And so it's like, to anybody who had an interaction with, and let's say it didn't go well, or ultimately we had a falling out or something like that. I don't blame nobody for that. And I work hard. It's true, right? Mm-hmm. I work hard where, hey, I get it. Like, I'm not taking it no kind of way. Even if you feel negatively towards me, I understand. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I'm taking it no kind of way because I'm trying to be like callous, like, forget you. It's not on that tip. It's just like, yo, like she say, relationships is hard, man. Like, this got to be something you really want to do. Like, this, if you want to do something else, do that other thing. But because this is take effort, you know what I'm saying? And if I'm bringing my handle to the game, you bringing your handle to the game, I got to look at it from the larger system. All right, check it out. All right, I'm vexed right now. I'm upset rather. I'm upset. What this person did is really upsetting me. So I need to get this off. You know what I mean? So I'm going to let them receive my vex. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be yelling and screaming and being animated, my arms up wild, and I'm doing my whole peacock show, whatever it is. You know what I mean? But, that could be a big time violation. I don't care how right I am. Let's say I'm dead right, It don't matter how right I am if I understand how that's going to land with what that other person is working with, Mm-hmm. And that's not even in a romantic context. It's like, I'm not going to be out here trying to embarrass my man. Like, I know how my man's is. I'm not going to do certain things to my brother because I know how my brother is going to take it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's the all the things that you said from my personal standpoint, but, now I'm being specific with you. The more I learn, this is part of the feedback, right? Like, I can be safe with the feedback, but also I can be caring now because it's like, oh wow, all right, she really upset, yo. Like, and I know everybody feels like that. Oh, she's for real upset, and there's a moment of confusion. Like, wait, you start thinking, depending on how you grew up, yo, I wonder what she's. Or you could be like, man, I don't care about that. This is not an issue. You know what I mean? This doesn't matter. But I can have care when it's like, this is gonna impact her, or she seems impacted now. Let me get out of my b-boy stance a little bit and try to understand what is the issue.
Can I give an example?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so we're going to be vulnerable now.
Oh.
And I'll share an example, which we're going to do without too many tangents.
I don't know if I can do that. I'm the tangent man.
All right. So, so we had, I don't know if we call it an incident. We had.
It was an incident.
We had an incident, disagreement, a couple years ago where my very friendly and loving partner here tried to help someone in an airport who could not speak English and he speaks Spanish, and he tried to help and then somehow ended up exchanging information on WhatsApp with this woman.
That's accurate.
Okay. And he had told me about the interaction with the woman and what happened in the airport, so that wasn't a surprise. However, I thought that she needed help with finding work. I don't remember what the thing was, but I thought that they had done that. That was done, and interaction was over, and we were just together, hanging out, watching TV, doing chores or whatever. And we had taken some photos the evening before, and I was taking his phone to send myself the photos and on WhatsApp because it's easier to send photos on WhatsApp.
That's a fact.
And I saw messages from this woman with little kissy emojis, and so this this incident has forever been labeled besito skate.
Besito skate. Yeah.
There were little kissy emojis, and I very calmly, because my 2 children were in the room at the time, said, what is this? Like, this is not cool. And he laughed it off because it wasn't serious.
I was about to get fired. I did not understand
Didn't seem
why.
serious to him at all. And I was like, this is not okay, and he was like, are we good? And I was like, no, we're not good. And he was thoroughly confused. And then I went into my, I need time. I shut down, didn't want to talk for, I don't know. It was at least a day.
The better part of a day, for sure.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
So what came out of that was, number one, his confusion of not even really he didn't think I was upset at first because it really meant nothing to him. When I came out of it, when I was able to talk again, what came out of it was, right, I had all these old wounds, right, from people who had not been honest, from people who had sort of, mystery conversations with people over text where there were kissy emojis involved. And when I explained that, it became really apparent to him that in that moment, like, the trust was a little bit...
Oh, I forgot about that. I was like, oh, you don't trust me.
He said, you don't trust me. And I was like,
true.
no, I don't.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Yeah. And we ended up, sitting outside in the rain, actually. You remember this? It was kind of raining.
Yep.
And
what's that tricky movie with the bull? It was The Notebook.
Not quite.
No? Yeah,
but we ended up like sitting outside just like talking, right? Where I said, I was able, once I calmed down and took the care with my words, to say, right, these are all the things that this brings up for me, right? These are all the triggers. Like, it makes me, I thought this conversation was over, right? I am not comfortable with, you having conversations with people that I'm with women that I'm unaware of, new women. Like, you have female friends. I'm not that. Right. It's people. It's not really women. It's people. It's people that I feel like are, I don't understand the nature of that. Right. And that's my stuff. Right. It's not, we both have like friends of the opposite sex and friends. It's not about that. It's like the nature of I don't like secrecy. Or anything that feels like secrecy, right? And so that had to come out. And then I had to really, really listen to him say, and hear him and know that everything that I knew up until, the day before when that incident happened to be true, really listen to him say, like, no, this is the most important thing. You are the most important thing, right? I don't ever need to, communicate with this person again. He's showing me everything she ever said. I'm like, it's not even about that, So, but that was like a real moment, right? That could have exploded, erupted, ended the relationship, right? All of these things, where I think that was really the first major kind of conflict and disagreement. But we never argued.
No.
We never yelled. There was never any, shouting, name calling. There was never any like accusatory language. There was never any threatening. If you don't do this, then there was never any of that. Was there?
I'm of the opinion, though, that conflict is not really always bad. Like, when I was growing up, it was kind of understood. I remember I was kind of afraid of a certain type of conflict when I arrived in Philly. And I have an older cousin who used to call me a nut, basically, because I would avoid certain situations. And, I, not just him, but I got the message from him that he's like, you're going to have to go through it every once in a while. You're going to have to be willing to fight, And I remember, I never forgot that because I was like, I had heard it before, but I didn't really understand. And Philly at that time was tough for me. And I remember I don't know if I got jumped or I was getting beat up or I was having And at some point, I was like, I had been sucker punched in the stomach. People come up with games, they would just hit me. And I'd be like, all right, if I'm going to get hit anyway, I might as well hit back. Maybe this is a bad analogy, but it's fascinating how just that thought got me so many friends. Like I remember thinking how weird it was that, the conflict was the thing keeping us from being on the same page. Once I was ready to fight, or it meant enough to me to be in conflict with this person, magically I could be respected, I could be a homie, I could be whatever.
And I think the analogy works in this case in that, like, that either one of us could have quit before, during, or immediately after that difficult conversation, right? But we didn't. And I think in this case, and I think in the case where, like, I needed to kind of, like, be checked a little bit as well, ultimately it led to just better understanding of each other, right? Because you didn't really know, even if I told you a million stories about things that had happened in my past, right? You wouldn't have really felt the impact of those triggers if you hadn't triggered it, right? And to really see in action, like, what a big deal trust is for me, right? I can say that, but until we had that moment of feeling like, oh no, like the trust might really be fractured here. What do we do? Right? That has a different impact, and you're able to hear and learn from it differently than just me telling you the story, right?
Mm-hmm. I think I would say on that one, just being in conflict with her, or being in that disagreement, or however you want to look at it, ended up being a positive to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it wasn't so, like, why I was even looking at myself like, why did I engage in this whole thing? I got this whole thing where, like, it's one of them joints where, like, you couldn't speak French at a certain point. Now you want French everybody to death, or, like, maybe you didn't know big words. Now you choosing 3-syllable words at all time. It was really, me stunting to a certain extent, really just being excited about that, I would say, if I'm honest. And then also, the potential of maybe a new friend, you know what I'm saying? Not that I'm, like, overly friendly even, but, on occasion. No, it's true. It's true.
You're very friendly.
Well, I mean, I don't know how overly friendly I am. But, because, that's not entirely consistent. You gotta be in the right mood.
You're friendlier than I am.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But my point is, it didn't really mean anything to me. It wasn't that big of a deal. And, we travel together. We're always together. She knows where I'm at with it, And I could see from her perspective, even hearing her tell the story, it's like, I could see how this would seem a certain type of way. But even beyond that, it does now sort of guide my behavior somewhat. You know what I mean? Like, I still be friendly, but, this is what it is. That's that. Let's move on. I would also say, though, that, that is now for me anyway, this is a point for the both of us. Because, I mean, not that I need to do everything she does and she needs to do everything I do. But I'm like, I now look at it like we are sensitive about this.
Right, absolutely. And I think
now we feel this way.
Right, and I think to our previous episode's conversation about, like, holding each other accountable, it's like, well, that's not that rule about, like, new friends and, emoji text. That's not just a rule that applies to him. Like, that's a rule that applies to me. Like, we've now set the what's the word I'm looking for?
The bar?
Expectation that, like, this isn't a thing that either of us engage in, because that's not cool in the context of our relationship, right? So it's not like, well, you can't do this, but then, there's crazy stuff happening.
I'm gonna feel some type of way. I'm like, what's up with, this has never happened, but I'm just like, what's up with homeboy, man? Why are you talking to homeboy? Oh, okay, we sounding emojis now.
Yeah, not emojis, no homeboys. That's not happening.
Yeah.
But that's not my thing, right? As we've stated, you're very friendly. You're outgoing. You're also just, like, a genuinely, like, super kind person who wants to help everyone, which is, I think, how that whole thing happened. And I'm kind, but I also am not trying to talk to strangers. That's not really what I do.
You're a nicer person than I am.
But my issue is more so being an interrupter or trying to like fix and make everything's good, everything's gonna work out all the time, and like we're gonna be good, we don't need to worry, it's fine, let's go with the flow, it's fine, and that's great, like 85, maybe 90% of the time, and then sometimes right, it's not. So there was another incident. It doesn't really have a title like the other one does. We'll call it Operation
Exit.
Operation Exit, where
Yeah.
we were on a family vacation and needing to leave an Airbnb.
Yep.
And we were a little behind schedule, so I don't know. Checkout time was 10:30, and it was 10:23, and we were getting out, but we were maybe going to be a little bit over the 10:30 time, and he was really upset, and also wanting to make sure that we didn't leave like sand and stuff. He was really wanting to like make sure we left the place in rather pristine condition.
Pristine is a strong word,
well,
man.
more pristine than I would. Like I was like, it's a beach town. Of course we're gonna leave sand in the Airbnb. It's fine. And also it's fine if we're not out until 8:32 or whatever, right? We're trying to get the kids out and all the things. And he was having a really big reaction to that. And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, just don't worry about it. What's a couple minutes, and trying to like, make it all positive and whatever. And you want to tell the story?
I was having a hard time. I mean, I don't know. I do know. I shouldn't say that. It's, just for how I grew up, it's like being, it is vulnerable for me, but being wanted in a place, or understanding that it's time to go, is a hard time. I'm not trying to, if I have to, overstay my welcome anywhere, you know what I mean? Ever, so, if somebody that I've been knowing for a million years was like, it's time to go. Oh, word? Like, I'm out then. Like, we'll talk about this later maybe, but I'm not ever really trying to do that. So I had like a whole anxiety thing going on. And then also, I mean, it sounds messed up because the word respect keeps coming up. But I think understanding is that, okay, I'm going through something, but I'm also kind of like, yo, I said it's time to go. like that I don't know why this is, but this this quibbling back and forth, we can get into it. And I actually did pause to explain sort of an overview. Like I talk a lot, but there's certain things I don't talk about. You know what I mean? Very often. But I paused to explain.
Do you want to say how you paused? Because I think
I don't remember. I just remember that I paused.
So it was kind of like, I'm trying to tell you something and you're not listening to me. Is essentially what you said to me.
I didn't remember
in a firm, I mean, if I might add, rather sexy voice.
Oh, you're into that. Okay. That'll get you fired some places.
But I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I wasn't listening, right? Because I was like, it's fine. I was so busy thinking that, I didn't really understand the anxiety, but thinking me saying like, it's fine, don't worry, would alleviate the anxiety, when in fact it was actually heightening the anxiety because I wasn't listening. So, he was like, can you listen to me? And then, basically explained, about what you just said, right? About sort of overstaying your welcome and what that looks like. And so in this moment, like, you didn't need me to kind of make it okay. You needed me to help us get our shit out and get on the move.
I think that was the thing. It was a double whammy. It was a big deal to me. Just, I'm having a hard time emoting that right now. But it was a big deal for me. But I think it was two things. It was one, I'm having my own anxiety. You know what I mean? I listened to the homie Brene Brown, and she talking about how her husband was breaking down. They was out swimming, and the boy caught panic out in the water. Somebody did. And it was like, they trying to have a real conversation, and this player is like freaking out. So I was definitely having that type of a freak out, but also it's like, I'm not the type of guy where I'm not going to be walking out with my Jordans, you step on my Jordans and I'm ready to fight necessarily. But I do have a respect thing that that is as sharp as the example she gave, you know? So it's like, you know, I used to try to address this a million different ways. And like I said before, women ran everything around me when I was growing up. All my family on all sides is a matriarchy. You know what I mean? So I'm very familiar with getting talked over. I'm kind of familiar with a certain way of not being listened to, but you do get respected, right? So I'm sensitive. You can talk over me, you can step on my shoes, but I need you to respect what I'm saying, you know? Because it could be any reason why I'm saying it. I could see something that I don't want to get into right now, which I think has happened before. I see a thing, we need to do this, you know? Mm-hmm. I'm watching a conflict play out. I think I can get in here and manage it, you know? But I need you to do this. You know, I don't have time to explain all this stuff to you. You know what I mean? Right. And it's not like getting in the kitchen barefoot. I don't mean that. I just mean like, you know, I need you to hear me at this moment. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Whether it's my anxiety or danger to the kids or danger to us mm-hmm. or whatever the situation is, mm-hmm. I need you, and I can explain, it's no problem, but I need you to hear me right now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I have the anxiety. This is why I'm just explaining. The anxiety gets worse if it's like I'm telling you something and you're not listening or not respecting the thing I'm saying. Because you can hear me and be like, whatever, you know, mm-hmm. or that's I don't respect what you're saying or whatever the situation is. But, you know, that was why that situation was such a big deal to me. Mm-hmm. You know, it probably sounds like a small thing.
But also, I think it was also for me, like, it was a reminder to me that, you know, something that maybe seems small to me isn't small. And so, you know, to sort of listen to what he's saying, but also now I know, like, oh, there's certain body language too that goes with the anxiety, right? And so, like, to really pay attention, and even if, I mean, we gave the kind of a silly example before about like, you know, an oil change or something like that, but, you know, even if it's something that seems minor, if it's something that, you know, the other person is saying matters, then it matters, right? And to work that out and not to be dismissive.
And I would say going through each one of those two concrete examples, but going through the conflict on the other side, you know, the same way how now it's like, you know, we have a thing, the secret, an outside secret can impact that thing. You know what I mean? I know that now, you know, so we have a rule, mm-hmm. right? And so I feel like, and I do feel that it's real. You know, it's not like I'm just saying it because we up here, but if we run into another situation and she has something to say, you know, because she listened to, it sounds terrible, but because she listened to me, I'm gonna be like, wait, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you having an anxiety moment?
Yeah,
like what,
there's a
you know?
Trust. And I think, I mean, just to kind of close, I think from those examples and, you know, and a few others that we haven't discussed, I think one of the things that we've learned is just this idea of like, really like vulnerability is necessary in the disagreement and the conflict. Like if we come ready to be defensive or ready to be on the offensive, right? Like then we can't hear each other. And I think it's so important to be ready to listen, but also like listen to learn about each other, and also like listen to actually hear, and not just listening to like defend our point or say the thing that's next,
or to not be wrong ever.
and that was the next thing I was going to say. Mm-hmm. Like it's not, the goal is not to win, the goal is not to be right, and we both really love being right.
I'm right a lot.
As am I, right? But we both really love to be right, but like the rightness or the competition for rightness, like it has no place here if the goal is to you know, to come together and to be closer. And I think you know, it sounds hokey, but you know, going back to the besito skate example, like I was in tears even telling him what made me upset, because prior to this relationship, it has not been okay for me to say, like, you did this thing and it upset me without me getting punished in some kind of way, right? Yelled at, belittled, dismissed, whatever, right? So it was so hard for me to even be vulnerable enough to say. And I remember when I decided to end my silence and finally speak up, my attitude was like, I'm going to say the thing. And if that means we're done, then we're done, right? And that was kind of like that was how I had to like bolster myself to say the thing, because that was kind of what it had been. Like, if I speak my mind and I really say, like, these are non-negotiables for me, you know, then that has been it, right? And so I think to be vulnerable enough to state, like, your needs, your expectations, what's bothering you, but also to be vulnerable enough to hear the other person's needs, expectations, etc., is necessary, you know, so that you can disagree, you can be in conflict, but it's not an argument in the typical way of, like, I'm yelling at you, you're yelling at me, you know, we're competing. That's not something that, you know, luckily we've ever done.
I would say too that the same way how, you know, she has some non-negotiables, you can in the face of something that you really don't want, sabotage yourself. You know, I could have very easily be like, well, forget that then. Nobody, you know, all this stuff that, you know, somebody my position would say when it's true that this was nothing. You know, it's one thing when you protest too much, you know what I'm saying, and it really was something going on. But if it's really nothing, I could choose to be offended and shift the victimhood to me. You know what I mean? I want your eyes on me because how dare you? You know what I mean? But you know, you want to resist that if you really care, I would say. And then the second thing is that, like, going through the conflict. This is just all the reasons why from my perspective, all the reasons why going through a conflict can be a good thing and can strengthen you. Is also, like, I could leave it there. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, in 2 weeks, I'm not worried about this. This time we tried to, dude, I totally forgot about it until we were talking about this. It's not on my mind. It's
not a thing that comes up, right? We're not hurling these examples at each other. Like, remember the time?
I'm not even thinking about this. Matter of fact, I forgot about the Besitos Gate too. Like to be honest with you, you know. But they're good examples that when something comes up, I can be mindful. I don't even remember the original reason why I added this to my behavior when dealing with her. You know what I mean? But I don't remember the incident, but I remember the emotion, and I remember the care, and I remember all of these things, you know? And I'm not ever holding that in my body, holding that in my mind that, yo, man, she don't respect me, or, you know, I was doing this thing and she screamed at everybody, or I can't even come up with an example right now, but, you know, I don't feel disrespected. I feel listened to. You know what I mean? It's over with, you know? The next time we're out, I'm not going to be like, remember the time? I'm not going to be doing all of that and be like, yo, you know, we need to roll.
Because the last time we hardly got out of the Airbnb. Like,
I'm not going to say that. No, I'm not going to say that. But I'm going to be like, yo, we need to roll. Like, whatever it is that I'm going to say, and it can be listened to and, you know, helps in other areas. Like I mentioned about, you know, something that I perceive as dangerous, or something that maybe really what it'll be. Maybe I'm fearful that I can't manage the situation that's coming. I need you to be over here. I need to rearrange the chess pieces. Okay, now I can give it a shot. You know what I mean? And that really helps, because it's now I can grow with her as opposed to being in competition with her, or, you know,
absolutely,
any of that nature. And I just wanted to say that, but.
Yeah. So we're curious. Like, have other folks had? Do you have any strategies that you use to help you work through conflicts and disagreements with your significant other? You know, do you argue a lot? Do you never argue? You know, what are the?
I don't.
We don't believe you if you say you never argue. But let us know.
Impossible.
Let us know so we can discuss. And thanks for listening.